是世界计算机最高奖图灵奖获得者，曾在2016年荣获中国政府友谊奖。
他不光是一位科学家，他同时也是一位教育家。
教授是一个具有传奇色彩的天才，但是呢，他不太适合比自己智商低的人去交流。
约翰·霍普·克罗夫特，中国科学院外籍院士，北京大学访问讲席教授。
您觉得主持人这个职业大概还有多久会被人工智能取代？
Maybe in 10 years there won't be any jobs left.
开讲了全新策划，打破空间限制，一起开讲。
今天和我们一起开讲的是我国最西部的一所211大学——新疆石河子大学。
The area actually started back about 1960. The question is, how is the world going to be?
设计一副眼镜，在人脸识别系统中会变成另外一个人，
强大到我们已经无法控制的程度。 怎么办
China has 20% of the talent. One thing I think that you should at least think about is, do you like to explore?
如果此刻您有一个机会见到图灵先生本人，您会问什么？
在人工智能时代中，您认为我们会面临更大的挑战，还是更加幸福呢？
本期演讲者约翰·霍普·克罗夫特。
各位好，欢迎收看中国电视荧屏上首个电视青年公开课开讲了，我是主持人撒贝宁，欢迎各位。云南白药气血康植物补益，改善神倦乏力，感谢云南白药气血康口服液对本节目的大力支持。我们今天的开讲了，继续联合北京大学来一起开讲，而今天和我们一起开讲的是我国最西部的一所211大学。 这所大学今年也迎来了它70年的校庆，它就是新疆石河子大学。让我们和石河子大学的同学们打个招呼，你们好。这几年，我相信大家都在不断的接触这个概念，叫人工智能 AI。因为我记得大概是在3年前，我们邀请过中国一位非常著名的人工智能的专家来开讲。当时我问他，我说主持人这个行业 大概还能持续多久？那位开讲嘉宾看着我，然后语重心长地说：“大概还有5年。”那么，到底人工智能这几年的发展状态怎么样？人工智能在未来究竟又会以什么样的方式来影响我们？那么，今天我们邀请到了这位世界级的科学家，掌声有请开讲嘉宾，世界计算机科学最高奖 图灵奖获得者约翰·霍普·克罗夫特教授，掌声有请。谢谢各位，大家请坐吧。 在节目开始之前，您是否介意我让现场的年轻人猜一下您的年龄？
No, please, please. How many of you could actually guess my age?
40是80？猜年龄哪有从上往下喊的呀 ？60， 还有呢？请您公布答案吧。
Actually, I just had my 80th birthday.
而且我之前了解到，您好像最大的爱好是帆船、滑雪和登山。
Those are things that I did up until maybe about 10 years ago. But when you reach a certain age, you have to let some of the things you really enjoy. But I am still teaching full time. So I am going to fly home Thursday so I can give a lecture at Cornell University on Friday, and then I will fly back here to China.
那您是什么时候来到中国的？
It was about 30 years ago. And I remember the first time I visited Beijing, there were no automobiles, but the roads were just crowded with bicycles. And it's been interesting to see how China has changed in the past 30 years. And I've just been very impressed with what they can accomplish in 30 years.
今天除了我们现场的这些年轻人，我们还连线了新疆石河子大学的同学。大家一起跟教授打个招呼吧。
教授好，教授好，
你们好。所以，教授，您见过这么多中国的年轻人，如果让您用3个词来形容您心目中的中国年轻人，会是哪3个词？
One of the things is talent is uniformly distributed over the world. So China has 20% of the talent, whereas the US has only 5%. And so the quality of students that I meet at Peking University is higher than at any university in the US. And one of the things that is driving US education is those undergraduates in China who want to get a PhD quite often go to the US. And the reason our graduate programs are so good is because of the quality of students that we're getting from China. And I hope many of them, when they get their PhD, will come back and teach here and help raise the standards.
其实教授没有用3个词来形容，而是用了3句话。但是我总结一下教授形容的3个中国年轻人的特点：第一，人多，数量多；第二，有上进心，希望自己能够获得更好的教育的机会；第三，素质高。那么在您开讲之前，我个人最想问您的问题是：您觉得主持人这个职业大概还有多久会被人工智能取代？
Well, I don't know. Maybe in 10 years there won't be any jobs left.
就10年以后，很多的职业可能都要面临着人工智能的挑战。所以未来会是一个怎样的世界？接下来把讲台留给您，请您为我们开讲。
It's a pleasure for me to be here and have the opportunity to tell you kind of what I've learned during my career that may be helpful for you in your career. Because you live at a real exciting time. The world is changing, and it's changing in a fundamental way. And it's going to be totally different than how it was before. But what is different, this one is happening 10 times faster. The precursors of humans appeared about 1 million years ago. And when the human species first evolved, we were simply hunter-gatherers. And it wasn't until about 10,000 years ago when there was an agricultural revolution. The agricultural revolution allowed humans to stay in one area and form communities. And that was just a major change from being a hunter-gatherer to living in communities. But it was then 10,000 years later when the next revolution occurred, which we call the Industrial Revolution. Before the Industrial Revolution, education was not necessary. But with the Industrial Revolution, all of a sudden it became important when there's manufacturing to be able to communicate with various companies. So there was a fundamental change in education. So you might ask, is there going to be another revolution after this? You might conjecture it's going to occur in your lifetime, because if I divide 400 by 10, it says it's going to occur in 40 years. And the reason I mention these things is just to give you a feeling for how important the information revolution is going to be. But what the AI revolution is doing, today, if you call a company where you used to talk to a human being, you're now going to talk to a computer. And those jobs simply disappeared of the people who used to answer the phone. And you see it here in China. There are a few places where there are small stores where there's nobody in them except for customers. You pick up the items you need and you walk out and your account gets charged. But computing is going to affect every discipline. We're really moving into a digital age. And when I look at some of the things that I see, and by the way, China seems to be a little bit ahead in developing technology. One of the first things that I noticed here, and this was maybe 30 years ago, is China started having cell phones long before the US. But what you can do with a cell phone today is amazing. I was in a restaurant last night, and the menu was in Mandarin. But I could take out my cell phone, I could take an image of the menu, but it would take all the Mandarin words and translate them into English. The changes in your life are going to be even greater, but I have absolutely no idea what they're going to be. But I think that they're going to be very, very impressive. The area actually started back about 1960. At least people wanted to try to get computers to do things like recognize images, recognize voice, and things of this type. But we were not successful. And part of the reason we were not successful is we did not have the computing power to do it. There are actually three things which are driving AI. One of them is the computing power. Another is the amount of data that is available. And the third is the communication between people. One of the major advances in AI is something called deep learning. And the way it worked, if you wanted to enter the contest, you were given 50,000 labeled images, and they were in 100 categories. So there were 500 images of cats, 500 of dogs, 500 of cars, and so on. And your job was to write a computer program which would correctly identify these images. When you thought you had a good solution, you submitted your code to the contest. They took 10,000 additional images that you had never seen and tested to see how well your program worked. And one interesting thing is if you take an image of a cat and you just change a few pixels in a very clever way, a human being will not notice that the picture has been changed at all. When deep learning, what it's really doing is it's pattern recognition in high-dimensional space. And I just use that as an example of why large amounts of data allow us to do things. It's in many areas that we now have access to enough data that we can extract out of them various principles. Now, this may bother you if this is the technology that's going to be driving your car.
小开划重点啦！
那么，教授所说的3个驱动人工智能发展的关键究竟是什么？从1956年出现到今天，人工智能在60多年发展过程中历经了几次寒冬，近几年再度进入爆发期，主要得益于3大关键因素。第一，计算能力增强大幅推动人工智能发展，显著提高了数据处理速度。第二，大数据的出现为人工智能的发展提供燃料，大幅提高机器学习效率。第三，深度学习算法异军突起，成为驱动人工智能发展的主动力。嗨 Siri， 给我讲个笑话吧。我不会讲笑话，只会卖萌，呵呵。除了被大家玩坏的 Siri， 对弈机器人、人脸识别、语音识别、机器翻译、自动驾驶、智能飞行器，其实它们都是机器深度学习的应用成果。那么，深度学习究竟是什么？ 深度学习其实是人工智能的核心研究领域之一，其最具变革的一点是不需要人为操作就可以自动提取数据的特征。比如人脸识别，深度学习可以先识别出一些有特征的线条，然后基于这些线条识别出不同种类的五官，再基于五官外形识别出更高层次的人脸。深度学习的本质其实就是像人一样思考，基于已有大数据学习人类判定角色的规律后，得出一个具有普适性的模型，再有新的输入就可以正确预测结果。听到这里，你是不是有了一丝危机感了呢？
I tend to talk in terms of AI, but that's maybe only 5% of you that's going to be what you really enjoy. So I do want to just caution you that there are all kinds of other fields which are very exciting. In this revolution, many economists believe that it's only going to take 25% of the population to produce all the goods and services that we need. Because I think there will be very high-level jobs. The people who are creating the artificial intelligence programs, which are going to change your life. And I can give you a little bit of help. One thing I think that you should at least think about is, are you curious about things? Do you like to explore? Or do you like interactions with other people? Or do you like building things? If at that level you can figure out what you like, at least that will help you narrow down to get the career that you would enjoy. And your goals in life are going to change. You might ask the question, why am I still teaching at age 80? Cornell has a very good retirement program, but the reason I'm still teaching is what I love. I enjoy working with students and I enjoy doing research. The job that you get is going to be a big piece of your life. And so what I hope that what you will do is that you will pick a career that you really enjoy. Because if you're competing with someone who's working and what you're doing is sort of what you enjoy, even if that other person is smarter than you, you're going to outperform them. When I was just a little bit older than most of you, I have a feeling that I've talked a lot. I enjoyed talking with you, and I hope I gave you at least a little bit of advice in developing your career.
Thank you very much.
Oh, it's great opportunity.
非常感谢教授给我们带来的精彩开讲。云南白药气血康植物补益，改善神倦乏力。云南白药气血康口服液，邀请您继续收看开讲了。谢谢各位，请坐。在您开讲的过程当中，我们通过央视网图文直播您的开讲，进入全民小纸条互动环节，看看网友们的提问。教授您好，您认为如果您没有获得图灵奖，您可能在其他什么领域会最有天赋？
I liked mathematical things, and I also liked physics. So that told me I was going to major either in a branch of engineering or in physics or math.
但是我特别想问的就是，您喜欢滑雪，喜欢爬山，喜欢帆船，您从来没有想过，比如自己成为一个职业的探险家，爬遍世界所有的高峰，或者自己一个人驾着帆船环游世界？
No, because I discovered that professionals in these areas were way beyond me. I also play tennis, and in the local tennis club, I could almost usually win a tournament. So I entered a national tournament, and the first set I lost 6-1. The next one 6-0, and I realized that the level of playing in tennis went way beyond anything I could do or ever would be able to.
所以人生认识自己在哪一个领域最擅长非常重要。就也许有的东西你爱到极致，但你确实干不了这个，你必须忍痛割爱。接下来交给我们现场青年代表。那么今天我们现场也是只有5位。 青年代表还有一个青年代表的名额，我们将留给我们新疆石河子大学现场的同学们，也希望你们能够积极踊跃地参与到我们的节目互动当中。接下来谁有问题？
教授你好，我来自北京大学，然后同时呢，我也来自于康奈尔大学。我是13年去的康奈尔，16年回到了北大。 不知道教授有没有听说过，在美国，在学生当中呢，有一个网站叫做 Rate My Professor。这个网站呢，是学生可以给教授去打分。
哦，有您的评分呢？
对，我跟大家解释一下，就是这个网站的评分的满分呢是5分，所以4.1分呢，我觉得已经是 above the average 了。 教授不知道有没有看过这一条评价？我觉得这条差评非常非常的 interesting。其实这条差评是告诉大家，教授是一个具有传奇色彩的天才，但是呢，他不太适合比自己智商低的人去交流。
我好骄傲，我跟教授聊了这么半天了，已经。您知道有这么个网站吗？
I know the website.
这个准确吗？
How many people made comments?
所以这果然是研究数学和计算机的教授。首
先
先问，对，有多少人在评价？不管多少人，这个评价您觉得准确吗？
No. One of the problems with things of this type, a person who dislikes the course is likely to comment.
北大有一个图灵班，就是您做教授去讲授的。 我问过图灵班的学弟，他告诉我，教授在讲授课程结束之后呢，他会逐一的下到讲台问每一个学生：“你听懂了吗？”我想问的是，是不是因为北大图灵班的学生是已经经过选拔了的？那如果是经过选拔了的，应该具有什么样的素质才能够成为您的学生呢？
Well, I don't think of students as being my students. I think of students that I'm trying to educate. And I think someone who is a good faculty member will try to educate all of the students. They will not select out just the high quality ones. But you really have to also worry about those that are having trouble, and you have a responsibility to all students.
所以您真的有这样的 教学的习惯，就是每次课程结束的时候，您会去逐个的问您的学生有没有听懂。
I may ask in class, I may say, does anybody have a difficulty or is there any misunderstanding? But students rarely are willing to respond to your question in class. You have to judge by watching their expressions and so forth. And you can figure out what fraction of the class are still listening to you by looking at the audience. But you don't get much information by asking.
我念大学4年学到的最厉害的一门功课就是我的表情读不出任何讯息。在教授眼里，学生是一样的，
有教无类。
对，对于教授来讲，只要你感兴趣，你愿意来听这门课，都是他的学生。下一位。
于浩教授您好，然后赛老师您好，我是来自北京航空航天大学自动化学院的研一的一名同学。我们学院本来最火热的专业应该是飞行器控制专业，但是在大3的时候分专业的时候，年级前50名的同学中有40个人选择了人工智能专业，那我当时也是那40个人之一。但是后来在这个攻读研究生的时候，我还是考虑了一下自己真正的兴趣，然后我放弃了保研清华大学人工智能专业的这个机会，继续选择了就飞行器设计这个方向的专业。
这个选择是很不容易的，你现在还能回得去家吧，对吧？
家人都很支持。然后这里希望跟教授讨论的一点就是。 教授，您一开始提到的是您对于人工智能未来的发展非常乐观，有可能会引起一次人类史上从未有过的一次大变革。但是我个人对于这个发展啊，却是有一些担忧的。教授刚才在演讲中其实提到了这个话题，就是给一个猫的图片加一些扰动，那这个猫可能在这个识别算法中，它就会变成另一种动物。 但是这种扰动，它不是说只对于猫适用的，它对于人类同样是适用的。比如，我们就可以通过这个对抗生成技术，给其中的一个人设计一副眼镜。那这个人戴上这副眼镜之后，在人脸识别系统中，他就会变成另外一个人。
随便戴个眼镜，还是说必须要花纹、色彩？它是特定的一个。 数据生成的一个图案，
这个眼镜的设计是需要一个非常专业的训练去做的。但是这个技术如果一旦开放出去，就是因为现在计算机科学最大的特点就是开放，就一个技术出来之后，很快大家都能用了。像人工智能就有这样的一个安全性问题，这个安全性问题不只是在人脸识别上。那么您觉得这个安全性问题就是不是会制约现在人工智能这个领域的一个应用呢
？The question of security is an important one. But I notice that more and more people are starting to use face recognition because when you walk into a store, by image recognition, they may figure out who you are and they know what kinds of things you buy, and an ad may appear on the wall which is specifically oriented for you. And not just security, but also privacy. Every search you do, the company stores your IP address in your search. And it's interesting how they know what hotel I'm staying in here in China. They knew what airline I flew on because I'm getting ads that just are completely related to what I've just done. So it's a concern.
其实大家发现没有，现在的立法在慢慢跟进。最近你们有发现，手机有一批软件在更新以后。 当你再要使用它的时候，它会弹出一个对话框，要求你必须同意它的隐私政策，你才能继续使用这个软件。大家发现没有？我相信这是一个法律上的硬性的要求。
您在这个演讲中也提到了，希望我们之后在从事这个领域的时候，更加注重去研究它为什么能够工作。但是目前来看，深度学习还没有走到那一步，就是因为它现在还没有被研究者们所能完全研究透。
我也听说过，到目前为止，人工智能的深度学习仍然还是一个小黑盒子。它在学习，我们知道，但它学的是什么？它怎么学？我们不知道。
I think eventually people will develop the mathematical theory as to why it works. I mean, there are other parts of AI that we now understand, like why can you train an algorithm on one set of data and expect it to do well on another set? This is an area that I teach at Cornell, and it's very hard to teach a subject when it's an experimental subject. So I think if you give researchers 5 years, you may find out why deep learning works.
所以这样不会有危险吗？他会不会在学习的过程中突然有一天从量变到质变，强大到我们已经无法理解和控制的程度？怎么办？
Well, I don't worry about that yet because most of these programs are really just pattern recognition. There's no actual reasoning going on.
谢谢蔡老师，谢谢教授。
下一位，
小蔡老师好，教授好，我是一名大2的学生。因为小的时候呢，我特别喜欢看《生活大爆炸》，然后很喜欢那里面的工程师 Howard， 所以我潜意识里男朋友也找了一个工科男生。我就发现，虽然说就是作为工科生，天天和代码机器人什么打交道，但是呢，也有非常可爱的一面。比如说我知道最近他在准备一个惊喜给我，但是呢，却总是暗戳戳的通过各种方式告诉我。
经常没事就暗示你，亲爱的，你知道什么叫惊喜吗？是这种吧？
会给我发张图片，拍一下他正在做什么东西。
这叫什么惊喜？这果然是个理工男。
但是在社会上，其实对工科生还有很强的一些共有的印象，比如说程序员标配的格子衬衫，还有单线思维、喜欢追溯原理等等。我就想请问您的是，您觉得您是那种标准的理工男吗？您可以用几个词形容一下您心中对理工男的几点特质吗？
It's a good question. It's not a question that I've been asked before. Most of the science people actually have very broad backgrounds, and they're talented either in music or art. They're really kind of exciting people, and I don't really think of them as geeks. I think many of the successful science people really are very broad education. They didn't just go for a narrow technical education.
但我不知道教授您是否同意，一个优秀的理工男，他一定在内心世界仍然像一个孩子一样，对自然界、对周围的事物保持着那种好奇，去探究。
Your use of the word curious, I think, is exactly right. The really impressive scientists are curious. And it's just like if they saw a woods and there was a path, they'd want to know where that path went. That's just their nature.
我想，一个研究机器人的科学家，如果把自己研究成了一个机器人，将会是一件非常悲惨的事情。对生活没有兴趣了，那我相信他可能不会是一个成功的科学家。所以，好好珍惜你身边这个非常有生活情趣的理工男。
谢谢。
来，下一位。
撒老师好，教授好。我是来自北京市朝阳区的一名体育老师，我在这个教育行业里面已经工作了有5年的时间，在这5年时间里面，感受最深的就是每天上学都要跟一群10后的孩子们斗智斗勇的去打交道，因为他们都出生在一个互联网比较发达的时代，但我觉得孩子对这个创造性的意识，不是特别能理解。所以说，想问一下教授，对孩子的创造性的意识是如何培养的？
That's a good question. These are questions I don't really know the answers. Some people just are curious and creative. Other people have maybe talent in music. Some people are athletic. And I don't know what about the early childhood gives rise to different types of skills. But it's an interesting subject to study because we do know now a lot more about the brain and how it develops. And so maybe we could learn something about how creativity develops.
我有个想法想跟教授交流，我不知道您是否同意。我认为从目前的教育方式来看，与其说我们给孩子们多少东西更重要，还不如说我们最好不要从孩子手里夺去哪些东西更重要。
Yeah, that I think a lot of the learning could take place by just being left alone and doing what you want to do, and that might help with the creativity.
好，谢谢教授，谢谢撒老师。
来，下一位。
夏老师好，教授您好，我是来自清华大学的学生，我本科学习的是生物科学相关的专业。那在我们的专业领域有一个非常有意思的实验，就是1999年通过基因编辑的技术，让小鼠拥有了过目不忘的能力。那正常小鼠大约记忆时间是24个小时，但是改变了一个基因的表达之后，它能够保持7天以上或者是永久的记忆。我们也知道，计算机也是拥有永久的记忆，这也是我们人类所非常羡慕的一种能力。那未来计算机还会有越来越多强大的功能，所以想请问教授，就是在您的生活中，您最希望 AI 能够帮助您做些什么呢
？I don't have any particular task.
您家里现在已经进入人工智能时代了吗？比如说，您回到家会说开灯，灯就亮了。
My home, no, because I'm older and I was born before the digital age. We have not tried to convert our home to put AI.
您家里的灯的开关仍然还是那种大手动的触摸式。
Yes, I like the touch switch. There are a few things that did get more automated, but they don't work for the following reason. When there's an electrical power failure, they get sort of reset. And you have to know how to go back and reprogram that device to get those lights to work correctly.
图灵奖的获奖者无意中给我们透露了人工智能的命脉，它的死穴在于停电。这其实背后反映的，一定是人类对于人工智能目前真实的一种看法，充满好奇，充满渴望，但与此同时也保留着我们的最谨慎的、小心的态度。
在即将到来的人工智能时代中，您认为我们会面临更大的压力和挑战，还是说我们会生活得更加幸福呢？
All new technology has positive things and negative things, and the question is how you balance these. And some cases it has to be by law, you know, what you allow and what not. I think that AI is going to have many positive things, but we've got to be careful about the negative things it will also have.
也有很多的科学家和人文科学工作者在共同的研究和探讨很多的解决方案，但是光想想未来会怎样，就会让人激动无比。来，这样，我们接下来把这个提问的机会，交给我们新疆石河子大学的同学，好吧？我们的场上第6人，来。
主持人好，教授好，我是来自石河子大学的青年代表段可欣，我来自新疆伊犁，想问一下教授，您来中国也有10年了，这期间有没有来过我们新疆？
This is in Western China, right? Yeah, I've been there.
啊，那您去过新疆，但是石河子您可能没去过。
I've been to about 50 cities in China. My wife has a map of China, and every time we visit a city, she puts a pin in. And what was interesting when I first came, and we visited a city which I had never heard of before, and I asked, what is the population? And I was told it was around 10 million. Cities that I have never heard of, which are enormous.
新疆的优势呢，其实就是光照，但是水呢，则成为了限制我们农业发展的一个很重要的因素。所以这些年来，我们新疆，特别是我们石河子大学的一些科研团队，就在做节水灌溉农业这一块的。现在我们已经做到，您在北京那边的演播厅，只需要一个手机，就可以直接掌控到我们这边的石河子田的一些实时的状况。这是我们现在已经运用到生活中的一个人工智能技术。今天我们是怎么样利用这个人工智能，给我们创造一些机遇，来赶超一下我们这些发达的地方。
本节目由金鸿魔法冰箱赞助播出，金鸿冰箱给你健康。
I don't know what's going to be needed to develop Western China, but I know your government is very concerned about increasing the growth in Western China. And I think that's one of the reasons why they asked me if I would visit cities there. And so one of the major things that we have to do is we have to, I think, move to where we will start understanding function. People were able to build airplanes before they understood aerodynamics. And so then what they did is they developed the theory of aerodynamics to make the planes fly better. The same with steam engines. They figured out how to make a steam engine before they understood thermodynamics. And then they developed the theory to make the steam engines work better. And so what I assume is going to happen is we're going to develop the theory to explain why deep learning works.
其实中国西部的发展，我觉得同样也是跟其他地区一样，最需要的、最渴求的，就是这些年轻人，就是这些优秀的人才。西部的很多丰厚的这个资源和物产，如何能够在未来能够被外界能够感知到，能够成为你们的优势？我觉得人工智能在这当中其实是可以发挥很大的作用。
我们呢，希望教授你有机会可以来到我们新疆，来到我们兵团，特别是来到我们石河子大学，为我们这些学生进行一些关于人工智能的开讲。感谢您。
谢谢你们，谢谢你们的问题。最后想问您一个问题：如果此刻有一台时光机，能让您去到未来任何一个时间点，但是您只能在那里待1分钟，您会选择去到什么时间？
I think I would make it short. I would take your 10 years.
10 years.
Because things are changing so fast.
那如果您去到10年后，这1分钟，您会选择做什么呢？
I guess I would see if I could find a scientist who would tell me about the most recent technology and what they were doing.
那最好的办法就是去拜访90岁的您。所以我在想，面对过去，面对现在，面对未来，其实艺术家的任务是用我们的想象去描绘一些画面，但是科学家的任务是要告诉我们这一切会如何发生。所以，如何面对未来，是我们终生要学习，并且终生在学习的一件事情。感谢教授今天给我们带来的精彩开讲，也给我们开启了一扇通向未来的大门。谢谢教授，谢谢。下期开讲再见。
Actually, I give many talks to young people. I feel comfortable and I enjoy doing it. Ideas are just going to cross physical boundaries. I think the future is going to be one where all individuals will be able to participate in high standard of living.